Yeah, that's always the caveat, because as soon as you think you know exactly what they're going to do, you're wrong. That's just the way it works. Jeffrey Wolf, this is a pretty quick verdict. I think just a few hours, and we know how much of that was housekeeping to get the foreperson. So what does it tell you, if anything?
Well, it's hard to know what a quick verdict or a slow verdict means. I've seen quick defense verdicts and slow defense verdicts, and then vice versa for the prosecution as well. And so it is really hard to know that. But not only did they have to pick the foreperson and read the jury instructions, they had lunch as well. And so it was the indication was that they weren't going to be deliberating while they ate either. So this is a very, very quick verdict. So whoever wins this trial, is, for lack of a better term, won it really well because the jury didn't need time to think about it. I personally, from what I've seen of this trial, tend to think this one leans towards the prosecution. The defense here was not super believable, but we'll see.
Jeffrey, let me ask you, because as this thing is plodding toward trial, I'm thinking, how many off ramps are they not taking to keep this from going to trial? Why did this case go to trial when the facts seemed so bad? The defendant, not exactly helping himself, he's not sympathetic. Do you think it was a case in which there was just no plea deal ever made, or is it a case in which the defendant was so sure he could extricate himself that he would, throw the dice?
I think it could obviously be either of those things. But the third one that people often forget is that a lot of times, no matter what the plea offer is, it's not worth not rolling the dice at trial because you never know what could happen at trial. Cases never get better the older they are. And as a result, sometimes if they're making an offer on a life without parole case where you're going to spend the next 30 or 40 years in prison, why wouldn't you try it at his age? Because that 30 or 40 years really is the rest of your life potentially. And throw into that the fact that he's represented by the public defender's office, so he's not paying for the trial. What incentive did they give him, if they made an offer at all, to take the deal? And was he just obstinate or not? We saw him fire his attorneys, rehire them several times throughout the case. So it was probably a combination of all three.
Yeah, and there was no death penalty to bargain off the table, so that was a non-issue. He's 49 years old. You're right, a life sentence or something in the 30 range is probably the same thing as a life sentence. So I start thinking, Jeffrey, I just think of the arrogance that comes across when a defendant does take the stand and then is so really horrible at it. That same arrogance, I guess, leads you to the casino after you have just killed your wife, if in fact that's what happened here. How else do you explain that?
There really is no good way to explain finding your wife's body and doing what you can so the kids don't find it and then leaving so they can find it. The whole thing is so contradictory, and the defense here was so convoluted and just, like I said at the beginning, just very, very hard to believe, which is why I think this is about to come down against him.